Okay, so I just got the new James Bond game, 007 First Light. I was going to stream it today, but I ended up just playing it a little bit, and then I got glued into the game. And like 7 hours later, I wanted to talk about my first impressions of the game instead of doing a live stream. This game right here, I'm just going to say it right now, and I will explain why I feel this way. But this is easily the best James Bond game ever made. It doesn't matter which game you thought was the best previously, whether that was something like Goldeneye, of course, or maybe one of the other titles like Nightfire or Everything or Nothing, or any of the other good James Bond games, not counting, of course, the crappy ones, because there's been some crappy ones also. It doesn't matter what it is. This game tops them all. And the reason being is this game actually plays like a James Bond movie. It has every element that you would expect to see in a James Bond movie. It's not just a glorified first-person shooter with little elements here and there. This game is absolutely the real deal. So I'm going to pull up a YouTube video walkthrough here from Shirako, who did a full game Let's Play commentary, like no commentary rather. So I will comment over the game as we kind of look through some of the clips. I won't go too far into it here, but for those that aren't aware, this game is based on the Hitman engine. It's the same developers of the Hitman games, IO Interactive. And those games, of course, are well known for stealth mechanics, not so much other aspects. Not really the most smooth in terms of like shooting or fighting or anything like that. And really other elements that you would consider in a James Bond film, like say chase sequences, for example, not really stuff you see in the Hitman games. But this game's going to have all of that stuff. Of course, the very beginning mission is going to be focused on the stealth stuff, because the stealth is actually pretty important here. It is a big part of the game, although you can technically play through huge chunks of it without really having to engage with the stealth if you don't want to. This game gives you a ton of freedom and agency, but this first part, of course, it's teaching you the stealth, so you kind of have to do the stealth stuff. But it's just really cool kind of seeing here as he's going through the base and stuff like that. We're going to skip ahead a little bit.
Okay.
You know, it's got the elements also of something like Uncharted, where you're going to be going across big chasms, doing all this climbing and doing, you know, the shimmying and all that good stuff, you know, or like the Tomb Raider games. You know, it's got those kind of elements too. It's all really, really smooth the way it does it. You're also going to have elements of investigating things. You know, you're actually going to have to like look around and find clues and stuff like that. That part's kind of basic. It's nothing like too in-depth, but it's a nice little break from the gameplay. It gives you like a nice little breather in between the stealth and the action sequences and stuff like that. So, and it also gives you a little bit of lore and storytelling and whatnot. And then we're going to skip ahead a little bit here. So, you got these segments here where you're freeing people, trying to get out of the base. You're going to have the big action sequences here. We'll let this one play out a little bit. This is actually the first guy that James Bond ever killed. Spoiler alert on that one. But it's just like very early on to the game, obviously. But this is actually going to develop into like a pretty big action scene. So we're going to let that play out a little bit. You know, this game's going to have all the big spectacle, all of the big set pieces that you're going to expect from a James Bond movie. But it's obviously a lot longer than a movie, of course. You know, I guess you could say this game actually almost functions more like a trilogy of movies in the way that it's laid out, you know, with the origin story of James Bond. You're going to have, like, of course, the QTE events and stuff like that, although Fortunately, if you don't like doing QT events, if you just want the scene to automatically solve itself, there is an accessibility feature that you can enable to do that, of course. So that's pretty cool. And obviously very, very awesome visuals. He's playing here on PlayStation 4. I'm not sure if it's the Pro or just the regular PlayStation 4. But it obviously looks amazing. I've been playing it on PC myself. Very well optimized. I've been able to play without any frame rate drops or anything like that. Perfectly smooth visuals. No like visual hiccups. Nothing really odd. And some of the best graphics I've seen in a game yet. And then we've got, of course, it has its own James Bond theme song, which is done by Lana Del Rey. It's a pretty good James Bond theme song if you want to look it up here. But you also have like really cool montage sequences, which I'm going to see if we can get that played out here. Find this out. So you're going to have, you know how like in a lot of movies, you'll see like different montages and stuff like that.
Yesterday was fun.
Let me see if I can find the actual scene. It's probably a little bit further along. Okay, it's actually kind of started there. But you have like these sequences. Just look at how smooth this is. You're doing like obstacle course, and then it's like you're immediately... It's not a cut from the video editor. That's the game that does it this smoothly. It actually plays out like an actual movie montage, which is really cool. And it also tutorializes the mechanics in a very smart way of the game. You know, it teaches you like all the different moves that you're going to learn from fighting, from shooting, you know, the parkour type stuff, the driving sequences. It tutorializes that, and at the same time makes it like really exciting, just like you would see in a movie montage, which I personally have never seen something like that in a game before. So that's real big kudos to them here. And then it has like the callbacks, you know, you guys gotta have the push-ups, of course. Yeah, but that's really cool, of course. And then, of course, you also got the elements of being able to explore around the MI6 base. You get to talk to Q and all these other people. You get to talk to Moneypin, M, you know, all the other characters that you would expect. Q gets to show off these different gadgets to you, so you'll unlock new gadgets as you go through the game. And you can switch out which gadgets you're going to take with you in the mission. So that'll give you more agency on how you want to play the mission. If you want to play it more kind of low-key, a little more low stealth, or if you want to like kind of go more guns blazing, you can. Now, you can't just go around shooting people all the time. You can only really get into the firefights when it goes into license to kill, which will be like kind of like specific segments. But you can just beat the shit out of people when it's not those segments, which is pretty cool. You get, of course, also get to meet some of the other operatives. You have your own apartment that you can explore and stuff like that. You do get these different missions here. Let me skip ahead just a little bit. Where you're kind of like, they're like little mini missions. They're not like full-on missions, but these are like kind of for like intel gathering. You're kind of like building up to the main missions. So these are kind of like really interesting for kind of lore building and everything like that. And then, of course, if we skip ahead a little bit more, this is like the meat and potatoes. This is going to be more of an example of a full-on mission. Very open-ended. A lot of different options that you can do. Like right now, for example, he is trying to get inside of a building because he doesn't have clearance to get in the building. So he's trying to find different ways to do so. So right here, for example, he's eavesdropping on this person who's going to give them a hint on a way he can get into the building. She's actually providing a tip on how to find a press pass so that he can enter the building through this spot where they're kind of like scanning for press credentials to enter that way. So pretty cool there. But a lot of different ways you can play through it. So you get a lot of replay value because it'll give you more like freedom to kind of figure things out. Like right here, he's turning on a fire hose. That's going to distract somebody. And then if he wants to, he can go to the park bench and grab a lighter where they left it on there. And he can use that lighter to ignite that wheelbarrow that you just saw, which would create an additional distraction to where he can potentially climb over that thing. And, there's all kinds of different ways to get in. But we'll skip it a little ahead a little bit where he's clearly inside now, sneaking around, of course. A lot of different ways you can do things here. You can distract enemies. You can use your gadgetry. If you get caught, it's not a huge deal. It's not the end of the world like it is in most stealth games. You can just beat the shit out of them. Really cool environmental kills and things like that. Well, not really kills, I guess, but like being able to use the environment to your advantage. You find like glass bottles. You can like use those and sling them across enemies. A lot of cool little shit like that. Got the parry, the dodge mechanics, of course. Oh, he just attracted more attention. So now he's picked up a couple guys. They'll call in reinforcements, of course. So if you don't put a stop to him quickly enough, they're going to call in some people. And that means you're going to have to fight even more enemies. So it kind of makes it a little hectic like that. But if you want to play this game like action hero, like Arnold Schwarzenegger style, in True Lies, as opposed to, more of a stealthy James Bond style spy, then you totally can have at it, of course. Yeah, it's all really cool stuff. Got elements like really stressful things where you're trying to like disarm bombs. Right before that, there was a huge fight sequence here. Fighting these two twins. I don't know. I think the other twin pops in a little bit later. But yeah, it's all really cool shit, And if we skip ahead just a little bit more.
What are we waiting for?
Got this scene here. Getting on top of an airplane. Getting a huge fight there. Got this cool element where you can hack the plane controls. And you saw how it's like flipping back and forth. It's yawing back and forth. You're controlling that with your smartwatch. Kicking enemies' asses with the inertia of the plane while you're beating the shit out of them. Just really awesome. Really awesome. And then, of course, skip ahead just a tiny little bit. Maybe not that much. But, wait, where is that at? Okay, there was like another bit here. Unless he skipped it. I don't know if he did. I hope he didn't. I'm having a really hard time just skipping ahead a tiny bit. Because there's like a little piece here at the very end of this that's really cool. I'll just let it play out. It's not a super, it's not like a storyline spoiler or nothing like that. It's just kind of showing like some of the cool shit that you're going to see in this game. Okay. He throws a watch there. And then you got like, this is totally like full-on action blockbuster cinema right here. Just amazing. He's doing this whole skydiving thing out of the plane, no parachute. Crazy things going on. And then look at that. That guy got knocked out next over by a car. Oh, got some guys to the rescue. You got to catch up to one of them and then kind of hitch a ride off of their parachute. Got the James Bond score just totally queuing up. Yeah, just totally awesome. And like I said, this is all up just from the basically the intro up to like the first real mission. This is the end of the first real mission of the game. There's several missions that you can do. Really good storytelling as well. A lot of deceit and deception and, all kinds of backstabbery and stuff like that. A lot of good, scenes with the ladies and everything like that. This is like the full-on package. This is the full James Bond experience for the very first time ever in a video game. There's no more of this half-assing, oh, we're going to give you this pretty good first-person shooter that'll have a couple like spy gadgets and a couple like little, tertiary mission objectives that you could do in higher difficulty settings that kind of seem like a James Bond thing. No, this is like the full-on package, guys. And I am absolutely hooked based on my playtime. I cannot recommend this game enough. And hopefully, my little blabbering about it and seeing these little gameplay clips is enough to convince you of that. At least to maybe consider it when it's on sale, if nothing else. Or, I guess you can always sail the seas as well, if that's the way you want to do it. However, you got to do it. Just play this game. It is absolutely amazing. And I just want to kind of ramble on about it a little bit. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to check out the video right above my head there. I'm sure you're going to love it. That's the most recent one I did. And the other corner, the algorithm's going to recommend something that I bet's going to be fire. Maybe not. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. But that's going to be the last line.